Hi, ladies. So I just wanted to go live and go over a couple of questions, different things that come up from time to time that I think are always helpful to address proactively. One of them is there is a, excuse me, story or stories on Facebook that go in cycles, and they're about people whose cats and dogs have been killed from essential oils. In the beginning, when I used to see these, I used to get incredibly distressed and go, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? I'm going to be killing animals. And if any of you know me, know that my dogs receive greater care than perhaps at times my children. But then my dogs love me unconditionally. So there. So I wanted to just address all that. And without it in any way sounding salesy, but being as sciencey as I know. So dogs and cats are very different. So you will see me distinguish when I'm advising, between them because the digestive and the clearing system of carnivores versus, omnivores is very, very different. And I think that's important. Where my information comes from is from sessions that I've gone to. Young Living will offer a once a year animal seminar, but they also had a breakout session at convention 2 years ago that was quite good. And I started following the woman who had done it and get my information that way. I also trust Lindsay Elmore. She is a PharmD. While she is an ambassador for Young Living, she is not technically on their payroll, and I find her to be incredibly helpful and ethical. So our oils, because of their purity and because they are plants, do not pose a toxic risk to either of these breeds. I also have a green cheek conure, so like a small bird about this big that you can always hear in the background. And birds are, due to their size, are incredibly sensitive to toxicity. So that whole canary in the coal mine where they used to let a canary fly down, and if it died, they knew that there was toxic stuff coming from the coal mines and not to let the men go down. So considering that I live in an 800 square foot house and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes more than that, diffusers going on in every corner of my house, and neither my dogs nor my bird have in any way suffered any ill repercussions from that, to me is the evidence that I need that what we're doing is okay. On top of the science and the information that comes out of Lindsay, we have books on aroma therapy for animals. And the videos that we saw when we were at convention watching horses, goats, even cats come up and snip them, and using the technique of using the bottle with the cover on like this and offering it to the animal to sniff and seeing what their reaction is pretty much tells you loud and clear that this is an okay thing for animals. Now, there's been a lot of discussion around tea tree in cats and dogs. I can't speak to cats. I don't have one. But one, tea tree is not a diffusing oil. It is an oil that's usually used topically. So I'm not sure why it would be diffused. Two, if you are buying some of this junk from Walmart or TJ Maxx or others, you are basically buying perfume and then acting surprised that it's causing a problem with your dog. When I first started 2 years ago, there was this whole big to-do around a cat dying, and it was a woman had bought an $8.99 bottle of rose from Walmart. As you know, there is no way in God's green earth any of us are getting an $8.99 bottle of rose. Sorry. I just cooked these scones, and so I have to kind of eat them as I'm going. Sorry. They are delicious. So, when you see this animal stuff, it's an awful lot of hype. Now, in defense of these stories that come out, if I bring my dog in to the vet and I say, oh my goodness, my dog just drank a bottle of wintergreen, or I just diffused tea tree oil, those vets don't know enough to stop and go, well, was it Young Living or was it Revive or the Walmart brand, right? All they know and what goes in that chart is wintergreen killed the dog. That's the issue that we run into. And when you sort of trace down these media stories, you can look on Snopes.com, Snopes, and you can see that there is this whole issue. On the issues where there's some validity and an animal did in fact expire, realizing where the source was. And in both cases that I'm familiar with, it was Walmart. So you have to consider the source. Every industry is going to have some sort of issue with that. That's number one. Number two, comments about MLM from the aromatherapy community. So this is kind of one of those politics things. And the reason why I know a lot about this stuff is simply because in the beginning, I was out there in so many different chats. And I realized that aromatherapists do not want to see anyone other than aromatherapists teaching about essential oils. Now, here's the interesting thing. There is no national certification for aromatherapy in the United States. Because it is a non-FDA approved product, you can't have a certifying body. So there are all sorts of education on aromatherapy, but there is no such thing as a certification. Just so you're clear on that. When aromatherapists feel it's their domain, it's really an issue when you consider that over 10 million people in the United States have essential oils in their home. Probably closer to 20, because if you want to count doTERRA's people and everybody else's, right? So this is outside the domain of them. The science of aromatherapy that goes back so very long is truly about the aerosolization of plant products. It is not about ingestion. It is not about application and the clinical expertise. So these guys don't have a corner on the market. I had joined an aromatherapy group to better understand all of this in the scorn towards MLM. And what I found was this snooty little group where they each grow their own boutique batch lavender from seed in their backyards or in their pots, and then they distill it, and then they sell it for exorbitant amounts of money. And then they rate each other's oils on this page, on this aromatherapy page, and it would say things like the bouquet of the linalool in this particular strain of lavender, blah, 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 was not dissimilar to the 1972 distillation in Scotland. It was like reading a snob's guide to wine, okay? Now, I don't know what they're doing with these oils. Are they just holding them? They put them in a cellar? Are they corking them? What are they doing with them? I don't know what they're doing with them, but they are not for generalized consumption. And there's a snobbery around it in the verbiage in a whole culture. You know what? That's amazing. Go grow and distill all your own stuff and go talk about it in a group. That's still not what we're doing. So we are about empowering people. We are not about mass boutique lavender. One of the things that I have found particularly interesting, and again, so I had a lot of these same concerns as you guys did when first starting out. If I was going to give my heart and soul to a company and they were going to turn out to be a bunch of crazies, I was going to be dead ass mad. And so I did do quite a bit of research around all of this. A lot of what sort of persuaded me and made me understand more of the truth was getting out to the farms. And particularly when I was in Idaho, being able to chop the trees down, see the whole process from the forest to the bottle was crazy to me, crazy. And the simplicity of it, and yet the complexity was amazing. The clipboards were everywhere. So if you ever are bored enough to go back to my Idaho trip when we were in the distillation, there are clipboards where somebody is checking something about the quality over and over and over. There's a discard room. So a room the size of an airplane hangar where they discard oils that haven't made the cut. So there were massive, like all I can describe them as is like big oil barrels. You know what I mean? Like when we were kids, big waste barrels, filled and filled and filled with essential oils that didn't make the grade. And I seriously doubt these aromatherapists or others understand the whole discard process and the obsessiveness we have around growing the absolute best oils. Our lavender has to wait 4 hours before being, after harvest, before it's distilled, because that's when it's at its peak extraction. There is a person who I met myself, I think his name was Jesse, when I was out in Idaho, whose full-time job is to go out and talk to the Idaho blue spruce trees, swear to God, and who has done all of this genetic work that when you get one tree in the group that's happy, how it is connected to 7 or 8 other trees, and it will make all those other trees happy. So you only really need to talk to one tree, not 8. I'm talking some serious, like crazy science stuff that goes on that I am assuring you is not happening in Walmart, doTERRA, or in the people who are growing boutique lavender either. So when you read these things about MLMs, in particular about Young Living, you know, I hate to say it, but we have a crazy world sometimes, and people just say stuff. Okay, then about the MLM model. So, if anyone in this company has ever given you the impression that becoming a diamond is easy and achievable by everyone, I would like to apologize on behalf of that, because my message has been pretty consistently clear to people. This business is very doable, very achievable if you work hard. There is no substitute from working hard. This is not socialism. We don't all get equal in all of this. Those who work the hardest make the most money. And I have tried to model that behavior as best that I can. I do work my business 7 days a week, very, very consistently, many hours a day. And because of that, I've been rewarded. Being in the silver is being in the top 2% of this company. And I want to be very, very clear on that. It is not difficult. It is just a lot of work, and it requires a lot of consistency. And so when people go after MLMs, accusing them of being pyramid schemes and all this other nonsense, it makes me crazy. So you bought a starter kit and then you never leveled up. That's not Young Living's fault. That's a series of choices that you make and nobody judges. So I see this stuff, and in the beginning, I used to call Kara or call Kristen all the time, like a nut, which is why I have the answers to your questions, because I am a curious little monkey when it comes to this stuff. There's also this horrific story about how Gary Young drowned his own child, right? The baby drowned during a vaginal pool birth, which was unfortunately part of what people did at that day and age. To accuse a man of willingly murdering his newborn baby, a lot of this stuff is just part of the negativity that's out there. A lot of this stuff happens also because of the tension between doTERRA and Young Living. There is no love there. And the way I look at it is, for those of you that don't know, the folks from doTERRA once were Young Living employees and left the company. What goes on between doTERRA and Young Living, it's none of my business. I feel like it's a bunch of adults still playing schoolyard games, and I'm pretty sure we're as guilty as they are with it. But I do know that when doTERRA people are oriented, it includes a very uncomfortable overview of Young Living, right? You're your own company. You've been your own company 9 years. Just stay over there. Everybody mind their business. So anyhow, when things like this come up, there is a lot of MLM bashing, and there are pending lawsuits from disgruntled distributors who feel as though they should have been a diamond, and they never got that chance. You're going to see that all the time, and that is part of the problem, or part of the industry when you're a billion-dollar company, right? People are going to take the pot shots at you. What I can tell you is I don't ever want to discourage you from doing the level of investigation that you need to be comfortable. Excuse me, my word is not final word. I know that I did my homework, and I know that this company's goals and integrity are in alignment with my own, and I feel good about that. I'm happy to respond to different things that you run into, but what will happen is eventually you're going to get to the point where you go, oh God, yeah, this is another one of these things again. So just wanted to address that stuff and put it out there to you. And if you have any questions from this, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them. Thanks, ladies.